Joining me now on News9 Live from Ramallah in the West Bank is Mr. Mustafa Barghouti. He is a member of the Palestinian Legislative Council and leader of the Palestinian National Initiative. Mr. Barghouti, thank you so much for speaking to News9 Live, and my heartfelt condolences, sir, over the terrible loss of lives in Gaza.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I want to begin by asking you that finally, after a long wait, humanitarian aid has started coming into Gaza. At the moment, it is 20 trucks of aid a day. The United Nations says Gaza needs at least 100 trucks of aid a day. What is the ground situation like, sir? It has been described by most as catastrophic.
We are subjected to a terrible collective punishment by Israel, which is depriving the civilian population of Gaza, 2.3 million people, of water, electricity, food, and medical supplies. It's becoming a very serious humanitarian crisis. And what we need actually every day is not 100 trucks, but 500 trucks daily. That's what usually Gaza needs. And we haven't had any trucks for more than 15 days or 16 days, I must say, which means we already have a shortage of 8,000 trucks, at least. What they sent up till now is only 34 trucks. Imagine, 34 out of 8,000. That is a drop in the ocean. And none of these trucks had any fuel. The main problem today is that our hospitals could collapse at any moment because there is no fuel. We have more than 130 children who could die because they are in incubators. And if the electricity goes away, they will die. We have hundreds of others, including many children who need kidney dialysis and they cannot get it. So hospitals are able to sterilize their medical equipment, the surgical equipment. We are lacking anesthesia because there is no medicines, no medications for anesthesia. Imagine how horrible it is when doctors had to operate on patients on the staircases without even anesthesia. That is the situation we have in Gaza. Israel is conducting a complete collective punishment on the Palestinian population of Gaza.
It is collective punishment being imposed on the people of Gaza, you say. Sir, more than 4,600 Palestinians have already been killed in Israeli airstrikes, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Over 1,000 of them were children. Israel now says, sir, that a ground invasion of Gaza is inevitable and will happen any day now. They say they want to wipe out Hamas, but not control life in Gaza once Hamas is finished. How catastrophic, sir, will a ground assault be in your assessment?
First of all, let me tell you that Israel continues to lie, and they lie every day, and their lies are being exposed every day also. They claim that children were decapitated. The CNN reporter had to come out and say this was untrue and apologized for reporting that. They said that women were raped, and the Los Angeles Times reporter came out and apologized for reporting what was not proven to be correct because Israel misled the world. They bombarded a hospital, the Baptist hospital run by Anglican Church, and killed almost 500 people in one shot. And then they claimed it was Palestinians who killed themselves. And then again, human rights organization could prove that they were lying. So they lie when they say they are going after Hamas. They are going after all Palestinians. And the reality is that up till now, they've killed more than 4,800 Palestinians, innocent civilians, including almost 2,000 children. And there is 1,000 more people below the rubble that we cannot get them out because they continue the airstrikes, including probably 600 children. More than 15,000 people are injured, and many cannot get treatment because of the situation in the hospitals. Every 5 minutes, Israel kills a Palestinian. Every 10 to 15 minutes, Israeli airstrikes kill a Palestinian child. So this is not an attack on Hamas. It's an attack on all Palestinian people. And what we don't understand, what we don't comprehend, how come the United States and Britain and Canada and France and Germany and Italy are against ceasefire? Why? Because they want this massacre to continue? It is totally unacceptable. Besides the collective punishment, Israel is conducting an act of genocide against the whole Palestinian population. And by the way, they are pushing people from the north and the center to the south of Gaza. Gaza is only 140 square miles, very small place. When you cluster 2.3 million people in less than 80 square miles, this is of course a total disaster. And because their real goal, Netanyahu's goal, is to ethnically cleanse people of Gaza to Egypt so that he can annex Gaza, and then he will never allow the people of Gaza to come back home again.
So when the Israeli defense minister says we have no interest in controlling life in Gaza, we want to finish Hamas and create a new power structure, you don't believe them? You are saying they want ethnic cleansing, they want to drive Palestinians out so that they can never return.
Absolutely. And I can prove it to you. Netanyahu said in the very beginning of this operation that every Palestinian in Gaza must evict their home and leave. Leave where? There are two options only, either to leave to the sea or go to Egypt. The second proof is that their official spokesperson of the Israeli army, his name is Richard Hecht, said publicly, and this was published in Yediot Ahronot, the most famous newspaper in Israel, that every Palestinian in Gaza must evict to Egypt. It was Egypt that did not allow that. It was also the people of Gaza, 70% of whom have already been ethnically cleansed from Gaza, from what became Israel back in 1948 through an act of ethnic cleansing. These people don't want to be ethnically cleansed again. They don't want to become refugees again. It's so humiliating. So that's why now Israel is moving to Plan B. Because Egypt refuses to allow the people in Gaza to be evicted.
And so what is your take on that? Egypt refusing to take refugees. What is your take on that?
No, Egypt is not refusing to take refugees. Egypt is refusing ethnic cleansing of Gaza because the plan is ethnic cleansing. And that's what Egypt should not accept, and we would not accept. But now the Israelis are moving to Plan B, and Plan B, as the Foreign Minister of Israel, Eli Cohen, said, is to ethnically cleanse the north and center of Gaza and shrink Gaza space. This is what he said. That means Israel is planning to annex half of Gaza Strip because they cannot annex it all since Egypt refuses that.
They want to annex Gaza. So I want to ask you this. Iran, Lebanon, Syria are clearly with Hamas. Do you believe that other parts of the Arab world could get engulfed in this war? The US has already expressed support for Israel. It has deployed aircraft carriers in the Mediterranean. Russia and China have been critical of Israel. Could this conflict widen much beyond Israel and Hamas?
Absolutely, of course, if Israel continues. First of all the Arab people and all the Arab world and all the Muslims in all of the Muslim world and all the people who believe in humanity in all of the world, including in India, are supportive of the Palestinian rights. The first person that wrote about the risk of ethnic cleansing in Palestine and the first person who warned against the settler colonial system that was created in Palestine was Mahatma Gandhi. Back in 1933, he wrote about the risks of this act of settler colonialism that is going on at the expense of the Palestinian people. It wasn't against Jewish people, but it was against the fact that they wanted to replace Palestinians and kick them out of their country, which is exactly what happened in 1948, and now they want to repeat it. This Israeli government has fascists in it. They don't shy away from calling themselves, like Smotrich, the Minister of Finance, they call themselves fascist homophobes. And they say that they will fill the West Bank with settlements and settlers so that Palestinians would lose any hope of a life, of a state of their own. And then Palestinians will have to accept one of three options, either to immigrate, which is ethnic cleansing, or to accept a life of subjugation to Israelis, which is apartheid, or die, which is genocide. Exactly, this is what this government is doing. Collective punishment, ethnic cleansing, and genocide.
Collective punishment, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. So this is a question I have to ask you as a journalist.
Please.
Would you categorically condemn Hamas for the butchering, slaughtering, and torture of hundreds of Israeli civilians, at least 1,400, including women and children? You say that no babies were decapitated and no women were raped, so their version is exactly the opposite. They have also put out videos. In fact, Hamas has put out videos of burning people alive, torturing them, mutilating them. But I don't want to get into this detail of how the bodies were mutilated. It is too disturbing to even discuss. My question simply is, you know,
I understand.
Would you condemn Hamas? Would you condemn Hamas for what they've done?
I don't need to condemn anything because I am the most known person in Palestine of advocating nonviolence. I am a person who doesn't accept the killing of any civilian, whether Israeli or Palestinian. But I'm asking you, why Palestinians have to condemn and Israelis don't have to condemn? I did not see a single journalist who goes and asks Netanyahu, do you condemn killing Palestinian children? We are talking about 2,000 children killed so far. Nobody asked any Israeli official.
I have, sir. I promise you, I have in every interview asked Israeli officials about the killing of the Palestinians.
Good for you. The main entry point here is the following. It's very simple. We should be accepted and treated as equal human beings. Equal human beings mean we don't accept killing Israeli civilians and we don't accept killing Palestinian civilians. But it also means that one side should not occupy the other. Who is occupying whom? Israelis are occupying Palestinians. Nobody should practice apartheid against the other. Who is practicing apartheid? Israel is practicing apartheid against Palestinians. This is not my opinion. This is the opinion of the Israeli human rights organization, B'Tselem, of the Human Rights Watch, and of Amnesty International. And these Human Rights Watch said that when the Israeli defense minister came up saying that Palestinians are human animals, they said it was not only disgusting, but it was also paving the road for committing war crimes. This racism against Palestinians is what is wrong. This racism should not be there. And people in India, I guess more than anybody else in the world, understand what it means to be living under colonialism. You've suffered from colonialism for 230 years, British colonialism. We are suffering from the same kind of colonialism now, even worse one, because in your case, they couldn't practice apartheid. Here, they are practicing apartheid. So like the people of India struggled very hard and resisted very hard to achieve their freedom and independence, this is what we are doing. We have the right to resist occupation. We have the right to demand our freedom. Nobody can take that away from us as human beings.
Yes, but would you agree, sir, that violence is not helping any side?
Of course, that's what I told you. I am the man who advocates nonviolence all my life, but I led demonstrations of nonviolence all the time. And each time we move in a demonstration that is totally nonviolent, they attack us with guns. They shoot us. I was injured 9 times by Israeli army. One time I was treating a patient. I am a medical doctor, and I was trying to stop the bleeding for that patient in a house on the 5th floor. And an Israeli sniper saw me and shot me twice with high velocity bullets, with gunshots. I still carry 35 shrapnels in my back. I was lucky because I didn't die that day. That did not change me. It did not make me want to have revenge like Israeli government does now. One Israeli woman said something very, very, very touching. She's a woman who lost her daughter during the last incident on the 7th of October. And I feel very sad for her. But that woman said, the solution is not vengeance. The solution is not revenge. And that's exactly what this government is doing. They're taking vengeance, they're doing revenge, they're taking revenge from Palestinian children and Palestinian civilians. Do you know that they have already destroyed 50% of Gaza homes and houses, partially or completely? What would you tell to the people who will have to spend years and years and years to rebuild their homes that were completely destroyed? How could a country destroy with their airstrikes 121,000 homes and houses? And how could the United States and Britain and France and Germany, who claim to be democracies, how could they accept these war crimes?
How could they accept these war crimes? Let me ask you this, sir. There are some who say neither a hawk like Netanyahu, who leads the far-right government, nor a terror organization like Hamas, which has butchered civilians in Israel, can bring peace to the region. If Israelis need to get rid of Netanyahu and his far-right government, then the Palestinians too need to get rid of Hamas, which is now being likened to ISIS. What would you say to those people, sir?
Hamas is not ISIS. I refuse this description. And I think there is a lot to be said about the fact that they keep calling all of us as terrorists. Not only Hamas, they call PLO as terrorists also. And the United States still keeps PLO, which meets with them as a terrorist organization in the American Congress. Let me remind you, and I will answer your question, but let me remind you that Nelson Mandela, who became the elected president of South Africa, who was the most respected leader at the time, and every American president wanted to have a photo opportunity with him, was still on the American terrorist list in the American Congress. So these descriptions don't tell you the truth.
But Sir Nelson Mandela did not go around killing, butchering, torturing, maiming, mutilating people. Is that a fair comparison, sir? Can we compare Hamas with Nelson Mandela? Will that not be a huge injustice to a great man like Nelson Mandela? Did he go around butchering people, innocent people, sir? Hamas has done that.
Nelson Mandela also practiced military struggle, and that's why he was accused of being a terrorist. That's what happened.
Because he turned 1,400 people, sir.
And as I told you, I don't support violence, but I'm telling you, you want to change Hamas and you want to change Israel. How will people change Netanyahu? Through democratic elections, I guess, right? And how should we change Hamas? Through democratic elections. That's what I'm saying. The same way, not by establishing a ground operation and changing the regime with tanks. We want free democratic elections. If we have free democratic elections, Hamas will not have majority. And I'm telling you, as Israelis want to do, we need to also have democratic free elections. Had we have them in 2021, and had Israel and the United States not opposed them, we would have been in a different situation. So the road to the future is not to bring a puppet, a collaborator, and call him a Palestinian government, like Vichy government in France was run by the Nazis, but to have democratic free elections in Palestine.
But so when you say you want free democratic elections, and correct me if I'm wrong, you just said that if elections had taken place in 2021, Hamas would not be in power. But let me ask you this, sir. Isn't it true that at the moment Hamas seems to enjoy a considerable amount of support on the ground in the wake of the 7th October attacks on Israel? Especially in Gaza and perhaps in West Bank also to some extent now? How much popular support do you think they have?
They have support, but they don't have majority. And they will not have majority. But Fatah will not have majority either. That's why what we will have is a pluralistic system, which is very good for any country, any democratic country.
You're saying if an election takes place today, Hamas would not win?
Yes. I know. I know because I have polls that prove that.
You have polls that prove that. So what's the alternative, sir? The Palestinian Authority? Because many say that it's its
No, the
credibility has
alternative is
eroded.
no, the alternative is a democratic system like every other country. Like in India, you have sometimes the Congress ruling, you have sometimes another party ruling, but no party can prevent elections. We did not have elections in Palestine since 2006. You know, I ran against President Abbas in 2005, and I came second. But I was waiting for another elections in 2009. We didn't have them. In 2010, we didn't have them. 2014, we didn't have them. 2018, we didn't have them. Who is always against our elections? United States of America. Who is always against us having democratic elections? Israel. Why? Why they claimed to be democratic? Why they deprive us from the right to be democratic?
Okay. I want to ask you this, sir. You said I am a strong advocate of non-violence. I'm sure that is true of a majority of Palestinians. I certainly believe Hamas do not represent the Palestinian people. But the trouble is, Hamas are in control of Gaza and they are at the center of this war. And so, whatever anybody may say, fact is that Hamas do not seem to be interested in peace. Today, they are referred to as terrorists by the whole world.
That's also
Chances
not true, because
they would even want to sabotage any peace initiative if it were to happen. They are constantly accused of using the Palestinian people as human shields. The accusation is they don't even care about their own people. So I want to ask you,
first of
how
all,
can there be peace
Madam,
with Hamas in Gaza? Yes.
you are repeating, unfortunately, you are repeating Israeli propaganda. All of what you said is wrong. First of all, Hamas is not taking people as human shields. It's not correct. Hamas is not doing that. This is what Israelis say. You say Hamas doesn't want peace. This is also not true. I know Hamas. They are ready to accept two-state solution. Who killed the two-state solution? Israel. Who prevented peace agreement? Israel. Who aggravated the Israeli public to assassinate Yitzhak Rabin, the Prime Minister of Israel, who signed the peace agreement with Yasser Arafat and with Palestinians? Netanyahu. Who blocked every possibility of negotiations, even with Mr. Abbas, who is not Hamas? Netanyahu. Who stopped any peaceful negotiations since 2014? Netanyahu. Now they want to say that all Palestinians are Hamas, and Hamas is a terrorist group, and Hamas is ISIS. This is all, excuse me for the expression, I'm going to say it, it's all bullshit. It's not true. They are sending propaganda everywhere, and unfortunately, the news channels keep repeating that. The reality is that if we have peaceful negotiations, if the Israelis accept to end occupation, and we have two-state solution, Hamas will also accept it and will have to accept it. But Israel doesn't want to accept it.
Okay, Israel doesn't want a two-state solution. Netanyahu does not want peace. I think I can safely tell you that Netanyahu himself is very unpopular in his own country today. And Palestinians, Israelis, including former prime ministers of Israel, have told me in interviews that if an election were to be held today, Netanyahu and his government would lose. People are not happy with Netanyahu in Israel, I can tell you that. However,
Because
with all due respect, so I take your point. He's leading a far-right government, which is now becoming more and more unpopular. It's also caused concern around the world. But with all due respect, sir, 1,400 people have been butchered in Israel. And I, as a journalist or as a human being, cannot paper over it, sir. And I don't think it's fair for you to accuse me of spouting Israeli propaganda, sir, because this is not fiction. Just like innocent Palestinians are dying every day, and I promise you, I asked every Israeli about it in my interviews. It is not fiction, sir. 1,400 Israelis did die on the 7th of October, and we have to value all human life. That's my limited point. I'm not getting into the politics of the region, and you're entitled to your view, sir. But yes.
Can you allow me to respond, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I am not accusing you of I'm not accusing you. I'm telling you that what they told you is propaganda. And repeating that propaganda does not make it correct. Of course, 1,400 Israelis were killed. I know that. I'm not denying it. But I'm saying also that 5,000 Palestinians are killed now. What is the acceptable exchange rate for Israel? For how long Palestinians should be killed? Do they want to kill 10,000 Palestinians so that that would be equal to 1,400 or maybe 20,000 or 30,000? In this today in the West Bank, there is one Israeli killed and 100 Palestinians killed. So 1 to 100 is an acceptable exchange rate. That is totally unacceptable. And any country in the world, including United States, including Canada, including Europe, that does not say enough is enough and we should have immediate ceasefire and then we should have peaceful negotiations. Any country that doesn't do that is a participant, a complicit of the war crimes, and even a participant in the war crimes, like in the case of the United States, which wants to send 2,000 soldiers to participate with the Israeli army in invading Gaza. That is unacceptable, and it should stop. Look, Netanyahu doesn't even care about the Israeli prisoners. His bombardment has already killed 22 Israelis more. Why doesn't he stop the bombardment so there can be exchange of prisoners? He doesn't care about them. He doesn't care. That yesterday, Hamas said they want to release 2 more civilian prisoners, and he refused to take them. What is that? And how can the world see only one thing, Israeli suffering, but not Palestinian suffering? I do not want anybody to suffer, neither Israeli nor Palestinian. But to keep this Israeli propaganda going just to justify more killing of Palestinians, to justify ethnic cleansing and genocide against Palestinians is absolutely unacceptable.
I would be the first one to admit that what is happening in Gaza right now is unacceptable. It is a crime against humanity. Palestinians do not deserve this. There needs to be a ceasefire. The world is just watching like a mute spectator, and that should hurt and shame all of us collectively. And I can assure you that even though you say that the world is only interested in listening to the Israeli narrative, I can assure you that ever since this war broke out, every single day on my show, if I've had an Israeli voice, I've also had a Palestinian voice, sir. I assure you of that. But a couple of more questions, sir. There are some who believe that Iran and Hamas were opposed to normalization of ties between Saudi Arabia and Israel and the peace pact that they were close to signing, and that may have been a major contributing factor to these attacks on Israel. So again, the question is, can Palestinians or Israelis ever live in peace as long as an organization like Hamas is in control? Because I am not inclined to take as charitable a view of Hamas as you are.
Palestinians were not against peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia. They were against peace between Saudi Arabia and Israel without solving the Palestinian question. Because Netanyahu's strategy was to normalize relations with all countries in the region and not solve the Palestinian and keep the Israeli occupation. The Arab Peace Initiative, which the Saudis produced, said Israel ends occupation, allow a Palestinian state to be, and then there will be peace with all the countries of the world. Israel wanted peace with the Arab world without solving the Palestinian question. That was the problem. Now, you ask me, how can we live together? There is so much hatred now, I know. There is so many people who want to just be in vengeance. I don't accept that. There are only 2 ways of achieving coexistence and peace. One is that Israel removes its illegal settlements from the occupied territories, from the West Bank, which are illegal according to international law. And then we have a state in West Bank, Gaza, and East Jerusalem, side by side with Israel. And we are ready to have a completely demilitarized state, given that there will be international troops sitting on the borders to protect us from Israel. That's one solution. The other solution, if they don't want that, is that we should have one democratic state with equal rights for Palestinians and Israelis. But they cannot keep one apartheid reality and expect us to accept that. Apartheid will not work. Either we have a democratic one state or 2 states. The decision is in the hands of the Israelis.
The decision is in the hands of the Israelis. Final question, sir. Is there even a remote hope that there might be a ceasefire? Because Israelis are very clear. They're going ahead with the ground invasion. They keep saying we are going after Hamas, we are not going to stop. Are you hopeful that someone can still intervene and broker a ceasefire?
Yes, I still have hope because I believe in humanity. I believe in wisdom of people. And I believe that if Israel insists on its plans, it will also cost them a lot, not only in Gaza, but maybe also in other places. So I hope that wise people in this world will push as soon as possible for a ceasefire so that this atrocity can end, so that the lives of both Palestinians and Israelis can be saved.
I couldn't agree more with you, sir. That's what we would all like to see, a ceasefire and an end to this brutal war. Too many people have died, too many.
Yeah.
On that note, sir, thank you so much for speaking to us and sharing with us the Palestinian perspective on this very difficult issue.
A pleasure to be with you, and good luck to you.
Thank you, sir. I'll be in touch.